Colorado head coach Deion Sanders has had one season in Boulder, but it feels like we've had a lifetime of memory. So I'm going to go over the 5 best moments of his first season on the job, starting with the infamous Louis Luggage speech.
You are Locked On Buffs, your daily podcast on the Colorado Buffaloes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Buffs. I am your host, Kevin Borber. Today's episode is brought to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day for free and available wherever you get your podcasts. We are also brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Let's dive right in. Like I said, Coach Prime has been in Boulder for one whole season, basically going on 2 years now. What is everyone's favorite memory? You comment below so that way we could discuss in the comment section, but let's discuss. I have 5 of the most iconic Deion Sanders moments in my head. I'm going to break them down, talk about why they stood out to me and what made them so special. And then I'm also going to throw in an honorable mention one, which I'll start with my honorable mention. It's, of course, Peggy, the super fan who had the opening kickoff at the spring game at his first year. It was awesome. The crowd went wild, and I think she was on top of the world. And to see Deion Sanders kind of, which he doesn't have to do this, and I'm not saying he's not a nice person, but he's one of the most famous athletes in the world. And to see him take time out of his busy life to make someone feel so special and so important to the program, and emphasize to her that she is important to the program, really awesome to see when he was taking over the job. Let's dive in. Louis Luggage is my number one because that is I think what the Coach Prime tenure will be remembered for. Regardless of how it goes, regardless of how long it is, Louis Luggage will forever be associated with Deion Sanders in Colorado football. If you guys don't remember the Louis Luggage speech, I'll give you the breakdown, the gist. He's meeting the guys from the 2022 roster who had just went 1-11, and this is what we were told or shown as to be his first sort of meeting with those players. And he tells them, hey, there's been a lot of losing going on. Your parents, the program, nobody wants that. I'm going to bring in players from the portal, and they're Louis. My luggage is Louis. Pack your bags. I'm bringing my own. It's Louis. It was something that I think is still controversial to this day because I don't think a lot of people were ready to see that side of college football. It happens at every program. I don't know if every coach calls them Louis Luggage, but every program in the country has players getting replaced each year. And to kind of see that behind the scenes look was, one, it was crazy at the time. 2, I think it was kind of indicative of what we should have been expecting for the rest of his tenure, which, I mean, obviously we're going into year 2, but there was clearly something there where I was like, oh, dang, he is going to do whatever he needs to do, or say whatever he needs to say and do whatever he needs to do in order to feel like he is doing the right thing. And that was pretty freaking crazy. Second one, you got to go with the TCU win. Realistically, they had 4 players make history. Shedeur Sanders went 38-47 after people were like, oh, he's an FCS quarterback. He can't play at the Power 5 level. I myself had my questions. I was like, is it going to translate right away? Is he going to try to be making throws that aren't there? Because he was able to take advantage of those defenses at the FCS level. And he absolutely torched TCU, who at the time everyone thought was pretty darn good because they were just coming off of a national title appearance. So he goes 38-47 for, I think it was almost 400 yards or 400 yards, something like that. Let's see his stat line. They ended up winning 45-42. TCU was the home team, so it was on the road. Shedeur Sanders, 38-47 for 510 yards, 4 touchdowns. And then you look at their wide receivers and running back. Dylan Edwards had 5 catches for 135 yards, 3 touchdowns. Travis Hunter had 11 catches for 119 yards. Xavier Weaver had 6 catches for 118 yards. Jimmy Horn Jr. had 11 catches for 117 yards. And then it is also worth noting that Travis Hunter and Trevor Woods had a wild interception where it was that play still stands out. I still vividly see it where he kind of dives and Chandler Morris was just testing him for some reason. And Travis Hunter kind of showed why you don't want to test him. Travis is probably one of the best zone coverage corners in college football, if not the best. And he kind of baited Mr. Chandler Morris into testing him and throwing the ball in his direction. Did not go well. Did give Colorado one of the best highlights I've ever seen. So that TCU win was special. I remember I was watching that game I was on not a trip, but I was on like a weekend getaway with my girlfriend, and we went to Joshua Tree, which is like in the middle of the desert in Southern California. And I just remember watching this game, sitting in the middle of the desert. We were on like a little um, porch or balcony kind of vibe, and I'm just watching this game, going like no one expected this to happen except for Colorado themselves. And even then, I think a lot of people were kind of skeptical of how good they could be. And so, realistically, that was just like they made a statement, like rather than letting everyone know they were here, they like kicked the door down, threw in a flashbang and walked through the door and set off some air horns, had an alarm going off, and we're like, we are here. And Colorado was the biggest story in college football for the next couple weeks. Then my number 3 biggest moment or most best moment of Coach Prime's first year. This is sort of a speech he gave. It was before the Nebraska game, and I think Coach Prime, one of the things I admire that is really overlooked was, and it's not, I think people are going to nitpick a lot, but what's new? He, when he first took the job, was really trying to integrate his new culture, his new era, but he was also trying to respect those that came before him. Talking to Colorado legends like Westbrook, Cordell, like everyone was sort of like he was trying to at least, I don't know how to say it, like he was trying to make sure that nobody forgot about Cordell Stewart, the Colorado quarterback who was a part of those legendary teams in the early 90s. He tried to make sure that they all knew how much they hated Nebraska, no wearing red that week. And so he's giving the speech and he drops the most iconic line of "Ain't nobody whooping us at the crib," because this was Colorado's first home game. Nebraska came. It was they were obviously Big Noon Kickoff was there for the second week, and I think Big Noon Kickoff was at every one of their games for like a month. But ain't nobody whooping us at the crib. Nebraska comes, and Nebraska was confident. Everyone's like, okay, TCU, they slipped up. They lost a lot of talent. Nebraska's going to be really good. And Colorado walloped them after that. So that was a really cool moment. This other moment, I don't know if this is like a favorite moment of mine or like I think it just shows how aware Deion Sanders is of the impact he has, the sort of people he attracts, and I would say the coverage he gets. And this isn't like a positive one per se. When they lose to Stanford, they go up 29-0. They lose to Stanford. It's embarrassing. Everyone, they were up 29-0 at halftime. So 99.9% of people, unlike myself, who gets paid to write and talk about college football, was everyone else went to bed. I was watching the game. I was like, hey, you never know. Like something could happen. Something worth writing about could happen. Maybe like Shedeur Sanders breaks a record or Travis Hunter makes a diving interception or something. And then all of a sudden Stanford comes storming back and beats them in overtime or double overtime or whatever it was. And he kind of is after the game. And this was honestly where I think Colorado's season collapsed. If I'm being quite honest, or to be quite frank, it was a horrible showing. Stanford, I think that one receiver, Alec Iomanner, had like almost 300 yards receiving. He absolutely torched the defense, and Deion Sanders was like, all that love, all that attention that you guys have been getting on social media, it's gone. And I think it was just, I don't say refreshing, but it was interesting to see him like he obviously was telling them it was disappointing about football and all that stuff, but it was like he understands this current generation of athlete where it's like you guys care about what they say on social media and you loved it when they were gassing you up. Well, guess what? That's done. And I think that just sort of perspective from him was really interesting to see. Obviously I wouldn't say that's like the best moment of the season when you blow a 29-point lead, but he still used it as a teaching moment. And then he finished it with the infamous, and we have practice tomorrow, or we have practice on Monday, whatever it was. And everyone just knew that, oh, that practice was brutal. My fifth and final one, I got to go with the Colorado State game. Obviously, that game was as crazy as it gets. You look at the score in the fourth quarter, and I remember, where was it? Oh, this is where I was. I, at the time, was covering a Stanford game. I forgot who they were playing. I'm driving home, and I had the game playing on the radio, and I'm just listening. And then by the time I got home, I was there in time for the last minute drive. But little context: Colorado State goes up 28-17 in the fourth quarter. Colorado just looks really out of it the whole game. Travis Hunter went down with an injury because of, you guys know, the hit by Henry Blackburn. So Colorado State was kind of clicking. They were shredding Colorado's defense, which this is when I think people started to realize how bad Colorado's defense was, by the way, because they were just not good. But so it's the fourth quarter, and Colorado State's Dallin Hoker touchdown from Braden Fowler, Nick Nicolsi or whatever his last name was, 35 yards, 28-17. Colorado kicks a field goal. It's 28-20 in favor of Colorado State. Then Shedeur Sanders, I believe the drive before Jimmy Horn had dropped a pass, and they showed Coach Prime like talking to him on the sidelines. And then the next drive, Shedeur Sanders delivers an absolute strike to Jimmy on the sideline, who makes a guy miss, 45-yard touchdown. It's 28-28, and everyone's like, oh, this is getting spicy. Then Colorado gets the ball back, touchdown, or with that, which, by the way, that was with 36 seconds left or around that time. So Colorado sort of storms back into the game. Then they go to overtime, and Deion Sanders chooses to get the ball first in overtime. He tells his defense, his own son, and says, because they were like, we want, or we could stop him. And he's like, you haven't stopped him all game. Like, we're going to get the ball in Shedeur's hands. Shedeur goes out there, scores a touchdown, 35-28. Obviously, Colorado State scores, ties it up, 35-35. And then Shedeur Sanders delivers another touchdown pass, and they get the 2-point conversion to win 43-35. And that game, like, I believe Shedeur Sanders said he went Tom Brady mode on him, which was an iconic saying. He finished the game with 348 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had an early pick, which was pretty crazy because I think it might have been his first pick of the season at that point. And then Xavier Weaver had 9 catches for 98 yards. That was the Mikey Harrison game, 70 catches. That would be crazy. 7 catches for 76 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jimmy Horn had a touchdown as well. Tavares Dawson, 5 catches for 60 yards. And yeah, it was just an overall, that was like a 3-week stretch of pure madness for Colorado. I think those moments were really cool. I think there's special moments throughout the season. But yeah, I think those were the 5 that stand out as the most memorable and the best moments, in my opinion. You guys comment below. What was your favorite moment of the first year of the Coach Prime era? Could be on or off the field. You guys let me know what you think. So that way, maybe I missed one. Maybe I glanced over a promising moment. But you guys let me know what you think. I'm sure you will. I appreciate it. When we come back, I'm going to be predicting who's going to lead Colorado in every offensive stat this upcoming season. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at FanDuel. It's winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel's giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. Appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me a part of your daily routine, making me your first listen. Make sure to like, subscribe, give me those 5 stars on Spotify or Apple, wherever you get your podcasts, and make sure to share this with a friend so that way we could grow the community. By the way, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day and you have to turn down the volume with all that shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports Today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Let's talk about stat leaders for this Colorado team. They bring in a lot of new talent. They bring in a top 10 transfer portal class. And so last year, and I'll go over the stat leaders for last year so we could kind of compare and contrast who was the leader, who wasn't, and stuff like that. But I kind of thought it'd be fun to go over the offense, just predict who I think will lead in every category this season, because they brought in a whole lot of new talent, and this class is looking real good, real interesting for sure. Sorry. Excuse me. Let's dive in. So, passing. Shedeur Sanders leads the way with 3,230 yards. He had 27 touchdowns and 3 picks. I think he had 52 sacks on him. I think he leads the way again. I don't think that's a hot take by any means. I think he actually, if I had to guess, I would say he comes closer to 4,000 yards. I would say he surpasses 30 touchdowns. And I do think that he might throw a couple more interceptions, not because he's bad or anything, or just I think defenses are really going to try to test him and give him interesting looks to make sure that his life is as difficult as possible. So Shedeur Sanders leading the way. Sacks, if I had to guess, I'm going to go with a modest Shedeur Sanders being sacked 25 times. I still think he holds onto the ball a lot. As Shehan Jayaraja said when he was on the show, I think it was last week or the week before, Shedeur Sanders holds the ball a lot, and we see it all the time. And it's him trying to extend plays sometimes, and other times it was the offensive line being terrible. But he took a lot of sacks at Jackson State as well, so I think that's something that he needs to work on. But I'll say he goes down to 25 sacks. Rushing last year, the leader was Dylan Edwards with 76 carries. Anthony Hankerson had 2 more carries, but Dylan Edwards had 2 more rushing yards. He had 4.2 yards per carry, and then it was Savion Wilkerson leading the way for running backs with rushing touchdowns. Shedeur actually led the team with rushing touchdowns, which is interesting. He had 4. So obviously not the most prolific run game, but I think it's going to be a little different this year. They lost everyone. They lose Dylan Edwards to Kansas State. Anthony Hankerson goes to Oregon State. Savion Wilkerson, I believe he ended up at Georgia State. Alton McCaskill, who was supposed to be the guy, really didn't play. 14 carries, 59 yards, and was injured, I believe, is what we're kind of going with. At least that's not what his dad said, but that's a whole thing. We're just going to move on from that. He only had 14 carries for 59 yards. He's at Arizona State. So they lost all of their top running backs from last season. They bring in Michael Welch, who's a freshman from Georgia. They have Charlie Offerdahl, who was put on scholarship recently. And then they also go out and get Dallin Hayden, the Ohio State running back transfer. And then yesterday or the day before, I think it was yesterday, maybe the day before, whatever, it doesn't matter. Earlier this week, they landed Isaiah Agustave, a running back from Arkansas. He is someone who will provide depth. I think Michael Welch kind of scared some of these guys out of the portal or into the portal, but I do think Dallin Hayden gets the edge here. Dallin Hayden was a physical runner at Ohio State. I think when he played a lot, he looked really good. And so now that he's going to have an opportunity to be the lead back, I think he's going to explode. I think realistically, this Colorado offense, with a better offense line, will have a more balanced rushing attack. Will have a just useful rushing attack in general as well, which is something that they did not have last year. Receiving wise, let's dive in. Last year, Xavier Weaver led the team with catches with 68. He had the most receiving yards with 908, and he had 4 touchdowns. Jimmy Horn Jr. led the team in touchdowns with 6. And then Travis Hunter also had 57 catches for 720 yards, 5 touchdowns. The receiver one is the most difficult, but I think I'm going to mix this one up, and it's going to get a little wild. I'm going to go with FAU transfer LaJohntay Wester to lead the team in catches. I'm going to go with Will Shepard, the Vanderbilt transfer, 6 foot. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'4". I think he is going to lead. He's 6'3" is what he's listed at. I think he's going to lead the team in passing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns. But in terms of yards, I'm going to go with Travis Hunter. I think Shedeur Sanders will look for him often. So LaJohntay Wester catches, Travis Hunter yards, and then Will Shepard touchdowns because he's so darn big. And I think that's my 3. You guys comment below what you agree or if you agree with those, and we could kind of compare, contrast. And then kicking wise, I know kicking's not really offense, but they do put up points. I think Alejandro Mata, he was 26-27 for extra points, and then 10-12 this past year. I see him going around the same 11-14, and then I would say 28 for 29 just to be safe. I expect Colorado will continue to put up points. You guys comment below which, for every category, who do you think is going to lead the team in rushing yards, receiving yards, rushing touchdowns, receiving touchdowns? You guys comment below. Let me know what you think so that way we could discuss in the comment section. When we come back, we are going to be talking about all the quarterback targets that you need to look out for as Colorado looks to find their quarterback of the future after Shedeur Sanders eventually leaves to the NFL. This episode of Locked On Buffs is brought to you by our sponsors over at Gametime. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Pick out any specific game or matchup that you'd love to attend. Talk about any good deal you see for these games. You could go to any game. I'm telling you. You could talk to your friend. You could talk to anyone about these deals. They have the best deals. I personally went to a Warriors-Lakers game with my girlfriend. LeBron was playing. Steph Curry was playing. And you know how prices get when all the superstars are actually playing and not resting. Not on Gametime. They had the cheapest tickets. We got the best seats. It was amazing. If you want to get some last minute deals, you could save up to 60% buying last minute for sports, comedy, theater, whatever it is near you. Save even more with exclusive in app deals on select deals ahead of the game or event. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets and Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege. That's LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off your purchase. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Buffs. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow. Give me those 5 stars. Let's get those ratings up. Let's get that subscriber count up. I want the show to continue to grow. I want the show to continue to gain its popularity as we head to the season. I'm trying to get to 6,000 subscribers. We're at about 5,200 right now. Love to see that number grow. Love to see all the support that you guys give me. Let's talk about Colorado's quarterback situation. So, if you guys weren't familiar, Shedeur Sanders is, he could probably return for another year after if he wanted to, but I doubt that's on his list of to-dos. He is sort of, how do I say this? He is NFL bound, and Colorado has no quarterback behind him. We'll just put it that way. They don't have a clear quarterback or replacement or heir to his throne behind him at all. They have Ryan Staub. They brought in a couple transfers this offseason, but none of these guys stand out to me as people who I'm like, you know what? That guy right there, that's going to be their starter. So I wanted to talk about a couple of the quarterbacks that they're in the mix for, that they've been in contact with. So that way you guys know some names to look out for and who Colorado may end up kind of bringing in to compete to replace one Mr. Shedeur Sanders. So the headliner is obviously Julian Lewis, a 5-star quarterback. He's currently committed to USC. He's got visits to Auburn, Indiana. I think Georgia was one of them as well. 16th overall player in the country, 3rd quarterback in the country, 5th player in the state of Georgia. He's someone who they're going to pursue, and I think they're really going to go after. I really think that that's their guy that they're kind of circling, and then everyone else is kind of, I won't say below, but I do think that they are making him a priority. And then the other quarterback that I just recently read about and heard about is Jaron Kue Saga Polutele is how I'm going to say it. I probably butchered the hell out of that. 6'3", 205 pounds. He is the number 1 player in the state of Hawaii, the 26th quarterback overall. He's a lefty. According to reports, he has an absolute cannon. He's included in the Elite 11 roster, so he's going to compete at the Elite 11. Build up his resume, probably get more attention. Right now, he has 3 visits scheduled to Oregon State, Utah State, and Boise State. Colorado did offer him, but I do think that they have some work to do. They have to maybe push a little harder for him. And I think those are the 2 quarterbacks this year. I would say another quarterback to look out for is someone like Cameron Keenan from Birmingham, Alabama. He is a 3-star quarterback, 72 overall. Colorado is one of his 4 offers. He's 6'3", 195. Not much info on him besides that, but I do think that they're really interested in him. And then they're also in 2026 looking after Jaden O'Neal, who is a 4-star according to On3, who just scheduled a ton of visits. He's visiting Texas, Colorado, Florida State, Miami, Oklahoma, Michigan State, Michigan, Auburn, and Oregon. So they have a lot of quarterback targets that they're going after right now. They may even try to flip someone, but I do think that they're either A, going to go all in on Julian Lewis, or B, add someone like Jaron from Hawaii, and then also probably get a transfer quarterback to compete in the room next season. You guys comment below what you think they should do for the quarterback situation. Let me know, and we could discuss in the comments. I appreciate you guys for tuning in every single day, making me your first listen of the day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast. Make sure to like, subscribe, follow, give me those 5 stars, and share this with a friend. And I hope to see you guys on Monday. Have a great weekend, everyone.